on the random.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast about history and nostalgia for hip hop, but more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. With me, as always, the homie Tony of IntoTheDome.com. What's good, Tone?
Hey man, everything is good, man. Just sipping on this nice cold craft beer, man, on this lovely night.
Yeah, you got to do that, man. We got a special guest, Mr. Biggie Smalls is here.
Baby.
Yeah, from the next bobblehead night, like last year.
Word.
Just now getting it. My brother had it. Now getting it. You know what I'm saying?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, this joint is cool too. He don't have the Jesus piece on though. I thought he had the Jesus piece on. But yeah, I'm watching it. Oh, well, real quick, Tone. On IntoTheDome.com, did you write a new article recently?
I did.
Yeah, tell the people what you wrote.
Well, the newest one was about, when artists drop a classic debut, can they top it? And the pressure of topping a classic debut. And so the particular article focused on Outkast ATLiens album and what I thought about it in regard to the comparison to Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music. Pretty nice response so far, man. I think people are enjoying the article, man. So yeah, anyone listening, please check that out.
Good stuff, man. IntoTheDome.com. Go check that out right now. Or watch this and go check that out right after. Whatever you want to do. But if you're new here, yes, we appreciate everybody that's subscribing to YouTube. Once again, it's a monthly show now. You know what I'm saying? But we have like 54 episodes. So there's a lot of content there. Sure, there's a lot of us kind of working out the kinks with the videos. So like I went back and watched a couple, Tone, and I was like, damn, like the video is different. You know what I'm saying? Because we were trying to test out what will work, you know what I'm saying, our home setups, whatever the case may be. But what's consistent is our knowledge of the hip-hop game. But if you're listening for the first time or watch it for the first time, we appreciate you. We hope you stick around. You like the show, hit the like button or comment if you will, because we got a lot of dope hip-hop to talk about today. And we like to do a segment called This Month in Hip-Hop History. And this month, which is the month of May, in hip-hop history on May 4th, 1993, Run DMC dropped their 6th album, Down with the King. Tone. Run DMC comes out. Down with the King is the name of the album, which is a pretty dope title, but Run DMC don't have fedoras on and Adidas and leather jackets. They got on like black jail suits and ball heads. What was your first thoughts when you saw this image, and what did you think about that album?
Well, I did not like the image. Only because, as for any viewers who have watched our show over the last few years, you know that I love Run DMC. They were pretty much one of the intros to hip hop for me. So when I think of Run DMC, I think of the classic leather. I think of the Adidas. I think about the way Jam Master Jay had them looking in the early 80s. And to me, that is their look. And it doesn't play out. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like as far as visually, 1993, I mean, is Jam Master Jay trying to make y'all look like Onyx, his group Onyx? You know, he just had his new group Onyx. So, I mean, and they're on this album. So is it an Onyx thing? Is it, Tupac with the bald head? I mean, I didn't understand that look. Their vibe and mannerisms was a little bit different, a little bit more rugged, but it seemed a little forced. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you Run DMC, man. You don't stick to what you know. So I really wasn't feeling the look, man. And as far as the album, it's funny because when I first heard the single and saw the video, Down with the King, featuring P Rock CL Smooth, produced by P Rock, I was like, you know what? Even though the flow is a little older, that's a hot song, man. And if Run DMC is gonna come back, I was like, yo, this song and this video in black and white and all these guest appearances and stuff like that, it fit the Kings, and Run DMC are kings in hip hop. So
Mm-hmm.
That song and that video made perfect sense, man. Pete Rock killed the beat. It was a dope, saying situation. But then when I heard the album, you know, let me say this: the lineup of producers was great. You had
Yeah.
you had KD from Naughty by Nature. You had Q-Tip who produced the song and rhymed on. You had EPMD did a production on the track and rhymed on. You had the Bomb Squad did a song on there, man. You had like I said, Pete Rock still smooth again. Pete Rock made beats on it. Pete Rock has 3 songs on there.
Yeah.
I mean, you have like this super duper lineup, and the beats was okay for the time. Now, for context, it's 1993, so we're talking about Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and all them killing it on the
Yeah.
West Coast. We're talking about Ice Cube being large. We're talking about Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders and stuff, and Black Moon, Enter the Stage, Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. All of this is 1993. So unfortunately, Run DMC got caught in the Matrix, man, and their sound, their flow, and the way they was actually rapping, it sounded like 1984, 1985 over some more modernized beats. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it really meshed, and I think it's only because they was forcing themselves to sound like a lot of the younger artists at the time. And so that it didn't work out. If they would have came out with an album that sounded like an early Run DMC album, I think a vintage sound might have got more love, just nostalgia 10 years after 11 years after they debuted, man. So solid effort, 3 mics out of 5, maybe 3.5 because of the music value. But, it left a lot to be desired, man. But I wasn't mad because at that time in hip hop, 10 years after your debut is a lifetime.
Yeah. It definitely is.
But for you, what were you thinking?
I was really kind of like in the same boat. I think initially, I saw the bald heads and I was like, wait a minute, Run DMC like trying to look like Onyx. And I kind of wasn't feeling that, but I heard what the album title was. I heard the song and liked it instantly. Saw the video and was having some reservations because, the way Run and DMC was rhyming at the camera was, like you said, like trying to appeal to a younger audience.
Yeah.
And it just didn't match what we knew. But leading up to the album, just knowing that all of these producers that were dope at the time were going to give them production just made me feel like, well, Down with the King worked. You know what I'm saying? Why can't these other records work? So, Tone, I went in to the record store, bought the album without even thinking. It's Run DMC. It got a lot of my favorite producers. Got to be great. And I was highly disappointed because of the same thing. It's they changed their flows to sound more aggressive and grimy like Onyx in a lot of ways, and it just didn't work. And all the production they got, even though they had top tier producers, it wasn't a lot of top tier beats, and a lot of what they were spitting didn't match with it. And I kind of agree with you. I think if they would have thought more about or less about trying to bring Run DMC up to the times, instead of like creating a soundscape that gives you the sound that you remember Run DMC, but it's upgraded. You know what I'm saying? Like Run DMC did a lot of rock beats, well, get somebody to, finesse a rock beat with a little hip hop feel that works for that time. And then Run DMC can rhyme the way they rhyme for the most part. But I get why they did it. I probably give it a 3 also. I haven't heard it in years. It was about 15 tracks on this album, and I think I liked one other record, and then there was like a maybe I had,
what? That's another thing too, when lesser is better, because most of you Run DMC early albums had 10 songs on.
Yeah.
And so I think you stretching it out too much, and I don't think it was necessary.
Nah, it wasn't. And you can see, like at that time, like you said, 10 years in the game. They even had a song at the end called For 10 Years. I think that was probably the one I liked. But I think because that was kind of new for rappers to try to have real longevity, because LL was, kind of doing it also. And you know, who else? How could Run DMC not have longevity if LL can? You know, you would think. But honestly, it just didn't work. And it's probably, as much as we didn't really gloat about the album, it's probably their last album that you can consider somewhat good. You know what I'm saying? Because after that, I think they had one other album that just didn't work for me, and they kind of returned to the older look. But I think the party was over by then. So
yeah, it was over.
But nevertheless, this was a time in hip hop, y'all, where the Run DMC that we've talked about on numerous episodes of this podcast and talked about them in, you know, high esteem, even they fell off at some point in time. You know what I'm saying? And it happens. But this was a moment in hip hop where, you know, rappers was trying to have that longevity that we seem to take granted for now because we have Jay-Z's and Nas who've been around rapping for so long. But it definitely was a dope time and an interesting time because of the changing of the generations and the music and the sound, especially on the East Coast. But let's get into the topic at hand. And we want to talk about sounds and eras and specifically producers, you know what I'm saying, on the mic, and probably in some ways unsung and underappreciated. Tone, tell the people who we here to talk about today.
You know what? I was thinking a few minutes ago, in every genre of music, if a person is lucky enough to create a sound or enhance a sound, you know, you really did something special, man. A lot of times those people aren't, you know what I'm saying, paraded like others. You know, a lot of times people do stuff behind closed doors, and so then you find out later, oh, so-and-so helped with that sound, or so-and-so made that beat, or so-and-so influenced this person, that person. So anytime you get a part of, you know, crafting or taking another sound to the next level, it's a big deal, man. And today, man, we're talking about Warren G, man. And, you know, with the way he brought G-Funk to the forefront of hip-hop around 93, 94 was something special because, don't get me wrong, G-Funk was not new. You know, you had earlier Bay Area guys using a certain G-Funk type of sounds with Two Short and some of those guys. You also had Dr. Dre dibble and dabble some and some G-Funk, and, you know, so did Cole 187 from Above the Law, I believe, and DJ Quick played around some, and Daz played around some with it. But I think one thing, you know, unique about Warren G was he took still had that Parliament Funkadelic some influence, but he took a softer approach. To me, it was really melodic, man, and the keyboard type, you know, piano type sound. I mean, it was real smooth, and to me, it was almost jazzy. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, Warren G brought a jazz type of style to the G-Funk sound that was already kind of bubbling on the West Coast. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that was very unique the way he did that, man, because honestly, when I started getting into Warren G's music, even though he's West Coast, it kind of sounded a little bit different, though. I mean, you can still feel the remnants of the West Coast, but it was a little bit, you know, jazz influenced, man. And, you know, and I think that now when you go back and listen, you know, a lot of people who, if you haven't pulled out Warren G in a while, go back and listen to it. Warren G music don't sound like Dr. Dre music. You know, Warren G music don't sound like Daz Dillinger music. It don't sound like Battle Cat. You know, it doesn't sound like none of these guys' music. You know what I'm saying? But it is G-Funk, and you know, him titling his debut album, you know, as far as the G-Funk era, it made people start using the terminology because people didn't use it, especially on the East Coast. We didn't never say G-Funk before Warren G.
Yeah.
It was just a sound. Whatever that sound is, a sound. But we started talking about that sound because he introduced it to us on that level, man. But, you know, what did you think about Warren G when you first heard him? I'm not going to get into specifics and stuff, but just what do you think about his sound just upon, you know, being introduced to him?
I feel the same way. I feel like when Dr. Dre, obviously Dr. Dre was totally different with his sound when it came to NWA. It was more like Bomb Squad, but like street, you know what I'm saying? Yep. As far as the records they made, but it was that same, almost like same energy as Public Enemy. And then when he came out with the Chronic, I felt like that energy was gone, and it was like funky but gangster. But then there were records like Let Me Ride that I love, that I think Warren G took that, not necessarily took that and that influenced him, because who knows, he probably influenced Let Me Ride for all we know. But I think he took that type of record and Let Me Ride, and he made that his entire sound. And like you said, it's like it's West Coast, you know what I'm saying? It's still gangster. He's still threatening dudes on there, but it's smooth. You know what I'm saying? It's real smooth. It's not like a Daz or DJ Quick where it got a little bop to it. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like a dance joint almost. It's not the Dre rugged, straight up Compton, you know, dirty beats. Like Dre is almost like Premier if you're gonna look at the G-Funk era, boom bap for the West Coast. But what I liked about Warren G and specifically Regulate, it was just the type of beat you just didn't expect. And it was cool, you know what I'm saying? And it fit his flow, it fit his voice, it fit his style of lyrics. Like his lyrics weren't complex, you know what I'm saying? They were just what they are. He's like the precursor to a couple of West Coast cats and other cats like Currency, who just kind of really make cool music, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what's the other dude that his name is escaping me, it's driving me nuts. I'll say it later. And I got like almost every album from him. But yeah, I felt like Warren G was something different after hearing Regulate. Like it took me out of my expectations of being, yo, Death Row is this sound and this is the only thing I want to hear, to saying, oh, I do like this kind of West Coast hip hop also. And it's different. It's not a either or thing, you know what I'm saying? It's like it complements what Dr. Dre and all those other West Coast producers did.
And you know what I thought was cool also, speaking of Dr. Dre, being that Warren G and Dr. Dre are stepbrothers, Warren G never used Dr. Dre's name to, you know, catapult himself. You know, Dr. Dre helped him behind closed doors. You know, just real quick, just for some listeners who might not know, you know, Dr. Dre introduced Warren G to John Singleton doing the tape on the Poetic Justice, and he got a song that ended up being on Poetic Justice soundtrack, man, Indigo Smoke, something like that. And people liked it so much that Def Jam offered him a record contract. Now understand something. Now this is Warren G in around 1993, early 94. He's a West Coast guy. He's Dr. Dre's stepbrother, but he's not on Death Row. He's not on Ruthless. He's not on any of the West Coast record labels that's prominent at the time. He's getting vetted by Def Jam and Russell Simmons. You know what I'm saying? You know, and he signs with Def Jam and releases Regulate. You know what I'm saying? Because that was on the soundtrack, if I'm not mistaken.
Above the Rim.
It was on Above the Rim soundtrack, which is funny because that's on Death Row.
Yeah.
Above the Rim soundtrack is Suge Knight and Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? And he is a song on there, but he signs with Def Jam. You know, and he becomes a huge artist on Def Jam. For any of you guys who've seen the show soundtrack, there's a whole segment on Warren D. You know what I'm saying? On his rise as an artist, him being on tour, his sound, everything like that. You see that on the show, man. And he's a West Coast guy signing to Def Jam. You know what I'm saying? And then what he does is at some point, he helps save Def Jam with the success of Regulate. You know, Regulate sells 4 million records during the time Russell was having some problems. This is a year before LL Cool J dropped Mr. Smith, and 2 years before Redman dropped Muddy Waters. A lot of people, if you research, Regulators, Mr. Smith, Muddy Waters basically pretty much put Russell Simmons in a position where he could sell off his shares of Def Jam. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So there's a lot of history with Warren G helped catapulting Russell Simmons by signing with Def Jam, man. And then selling 4 million records at that time in hip hop was monstrous. He was selling on the same level as Snoop and Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
You know, that's amazing.
Like you said, he's selling on the same level as Snoop and Dr. Dre, but he doesn't have like what Death Row did backing him. You know what I'm saying? Like Warren comes from that camp, but he's on, he's on Def Jam, and back in the like in any label, honestly, when a new label starts to rise, almost everybody that gets released benefits in some way from how dope everything is and how everybody's into it. But somebody like me to go, to the right of the situation and go to Def Jam and make it work and still bring that sound, that same sound. And for them to not is what was done, because I would expect something like that to come out of Death Row unscathed, but to be on Def Jam and them not tweak his sound or say you should do a record with this one or that one. It's a West Coast album through and through.
It's absolutely a West Coast album. And another thing too, for me, the reason why I respect Warren G, he introduced Nate Dogg to me. You know what I'm saying? I love Nate Dogg, man. Rest in peace to Nate Dogg, man. I used to call him Nate the Great. You know what I'm saying? And he made singing cool. He made singing gangster. I know people sing before him on certain hip hop songs, but it just didn't sound like Nate. Nate sounds so natural with it. And people said that Nate was one of the ones that came to the studio done every time. He's singing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But he introduced us to Nate Dogg. Nate Dogg ended up being a go-to guy on the East Coast and West Coast for gangsta hooks.
Yeah.
I mean, regulate basically about getting jumped and robbed and all that. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And he made it sound so good. It sounded like an R&B song almost. But I think that was so dope. And they go way back. Snoop Dogg, Nate Dogg, and Warren G with 213. They all was friends back in high school era. So I just think that's, what I'm saying, introducing us to Nate Dogg, introducing us to some of his people. Like, for example, anyone listening, you want to hear some dope female rappers? Go back and YouTube the Five Footers. The Five Footers was a duo down with Warren G. They have a song on his album called Super Soul Sisters. You know what I'm saying? Produced by Warren G. They had a song on Jason Lyrics soundtrack called Walk Away, Walk Away. They had a joint called Heist. Look, man, these girls, they very dope, smooth voices, smooth flow. They sound really dope over Warren G's production and stuff like that, man. So check them out. I think he had the guys, the Dove Shack and stuff like that. So he had some people in his camp, man, the Twins. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, he was doing his thing, man. So you gotta check out some of his people, and he did the production for his crews. You know what I'm saying? And if you like the Warren G sound, then you'll probably like his artists because they have the same sound with him producing on the boards, man. But yeah, man, you ever heard of the Five Footers, man?
Yeah, I remember them. Honestly, like I wasn't even thinking about it until you said it, and I think that's another thing that showed how much they Def Jam believed in his music and probably wanted some of that West Coast Death Row sound, because
it was popping.
Yeah, exactly. It was popping, and if you can get Warren G and he has all these connections to this, it's just dope to see that they kind of let him be. You know what I'm saying? And put other artists on and feature artists like Mr. Malik from Illegal, who was also on the album. And, just kind of spotlight it. And I think, like, in some ways, we do and don't have that today because, sure, we have a lot of ways to discover artists, through stuff like SoundCloud and stuff like that. But we got to go digging like crazy. Whereas back then, you got signed because you were talented and you had something that an A&R or a record exec believed in. And with Warren G, this dude is not just a rapper. He's also a producer and he has a specific sound and a vision. And one of the guys that I was saying he paved the road for is a dude named Dom Kennedy. I think his flow and his style of picking beats reminds me a lot of what Warren G did back then. Now, Tone, knowing that Warren G is like he sells 4 million records, you know what I'm saying, with this debut album. Regulate it's crazy even when it was on Above the Rim soundtrack. But there was I will admit at the time, for me personally, like I didn't have a lot of money to buy every album that came out. I just didn't. So some stuff I just had to miss. But I was listening to it today, and that album hasn't aged at all, if you ask me. If you think about all the things we said about Warren G's sound and production, now do you think Warren G is basically the epitome of the G-Funk era? Like, we know he named his album that. We know that there were other producers and artists who contributed to that sound of that era. But do you think, especially given the fact he sold 4 million copies, do you think when we look back on the G-Funk era, how high do we put Warren G? Or do we just think about Dr. Dre and then that's the end of it?
No, I think you put him at the very top. And this is the reason. So Dr. Dre and a lot of other guys, they had some of that in their sound, but it wasn't their signature sound. You know what I'm saying? For me, Warren G is number one because different reasons. One, he called his debut album G-Funk Era. So he was putting that out there for everyone. So you'll never forget about the name of the title of a very successful multi-platinum album. Second, with that sound, he never deviated from it. Even when he made songs for other people, he didn't deviate too far off. Especially with his own production and his own camp, it sounded like it sounded. Now, I'm going to get to a few songs later that he produced for other people that might have deviated some, but that was just probably because that's what they wanted. They wanted Warren G, they wanted his sound, but they wanted to maybe tweak something to fit their style. But in terms of his overall production, philosophy, to me, it was G-Funk, and I would probably put him at the top, because whenever someone say G-Funk to me, my mind thinks Warren G.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think about anyone else. I think about Warren G. You know what I'm saying? Because he kept a consistent sound. Not every producer has a signature sound, but they do deviate sometimes. You know what I'm saying? DJ Quick will have a song like Tonight, but then he would turn around on Pop All Eyes on Me and have Hearts of Men. You know what I'm saying? They sound nothing the same. You know what I'm saying? Warren G, you kind of get what you get with him. And I think that's a cool thing. It's like Pete Rock.
Yeah. Now, do you think that, because I think when I think about that time, like by the time Warren G came out with the G-Funk era joint, the East Coast was, like we said earlier, was starting to rise a little bit around that time. Slowly, it wasn't the whole, camp of Biggie, Nas, and Wu-Tang, and like everybody wasn't out just yet, and Death Row was still banging, you know what I'm saying, at the time, and the G-Funk era was still there. But it felt to me at that time, at least, or at least trying to think back about it, that this album came out from Warren G, and then it felt like nothing else happened after that. Now, as far as follow-ups, do you think because he had that signature sound and it was on his way out, even though we didn't know at the time, do you think that played a role in people somewhat losing interest in his music because his music was the sound of an era that was starting to go fade away a little bit?
Few things, kind of like when I talk about the article I did on Outkast. You follow up on like a classic debut, and I guess to a degree, especially people on the West Coast, they would consider Warren G album a classic. You know what I'm saying? So let's just, for the sake of conversation, let's call it a classic. It's hard to follow a classic, man. And sounds was changing. And that's just hip hop in general, man. It's every so many years, something that's gonna take off. The West Coast had dominated, for a couple of years at that time. When you're thinking about the Chronic and Ice Cube albums and Snoop Dogg blowing up like crazy, leading into Tupac stuff. But just real quick, even with Warren G, the regular album was a bridge between East and West. The show soundtrack, Warren G's featured on there. But then on the show soundtrack, you got, West Coast artists all over the show soundtrack too. You know what I'm saying? So, he was still riding that wave. And then around 95-ish, 96, the East Coast went crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, West Coast had it for a while. Biggie started really blowing up in 95 with all the remixes and stuff. Ready to Die came out late '94, so it bubbled into '95. So '95 was kind of biggest year, you know what I'm saying? And Junior Mafia, with Little Kim and everything, and you had the Fugees and everybody in what I'm saying, 95, 96. It was just East Coast crazy. You know what I'm saying? So since they took back the reins since West Coast had it for a couple of years, Warren G kind of got lost in the mix of East Coast taking over again. You know what I'm saying? So that wasn't really his fault. His sound was just fine. I think even on his sophomore album, Take a Look Over Your Shoulder, came out '97. '97 still is the Puff year. That's the Puff and Mace year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't win doing the Puff and Mace year. And he still managed to go gold, I think, with his second album. He went gold. And I think his third album might have went gold as well. So he was still being very respectable for what he was doing. But yeah, he kind of got lost in the transition from the West to the East again, which wasn't his fault.
And and I agree, because I think I started to think about it more so that maybe the Def Jam situation didn't help once the East started to get all these, new and up and coming artists, because they're on the East. Now they're looking at it like, well, the wave is over here now. You know what I'm saying? And Death Row was still popping because Pac was out. And maybe if Warren G was there the whole time, he, even though, like you said, it still went gold, which is not a bad deal, especially at that time. I think it probably would have turned out a little bit different, but he was still working, and he also is a producer. So at the same time, you're not talking about somebody who needs to just rap and release albums to eat. Tone, talk about some of the production that Warren G has done over the time that maybe some people don't even know about.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. When Thug Life Volume 1 came out, Pac and his crew, man, one of my favorite songs on the album was How Long Will They Mourn Me? You know what I'm saying? And, Warren G did How Long Will They Mourn Me, man? And, Nate Dogg did the hook, which once again is that Nate Dogg Warren G connection, 213. You know what I'm saying? With Thug Life rhyming on it, man, I thought that was very, very dope. He had a relationship with Tupac, and of course at the time, Snoop and Tupac and all them pre-Death Row were cool. They knew each other. They was very cordial. They would kick it every now and then. And so I'm sure that Warren G had already met him a few times, and he produced on that one. And he also produced MC Breed, Gotta Get Mine, featuring Tupac. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was a banger. That was a nice joint that Warren G did, man. And what's some more, man? I like, one of my favorites was around my freshman year in college. Warren G did the Slick Rick Behind Bars remix, that Dumb Diddy Dumb Diddy. Oh my God, that was a very.
That's the best version of that song. That's the best version of it.
That's the best version of the song, and he has a verse on that song as well. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, those are some of the ones that come to mind, man. Just top of my head with Warren G, man. But yeah, he's a dope producer, man, and he produced all of his own solo albums. Like I said, he produced for his camp. He produced for some of the guys I mentioned a few minutes ago. And he's always been in the mix, man. And I appreciate Warren G because he's a low-key guy. You never see he's never the type that did too many interviews, never raised his voice about nothing, never tried too hard to be hard. He never tried to be gangster. He was smooth with it. You know what I'm saying? It was just that laid back, you know what I'm saying, just never too rowdy, man. And I think that he gets so much respect because of that. And people respect Warren G from the east to the west because he always appears very solid. And
Go ahead.
And just real quick, I was also pleased when me being in North Carolina when my guy Knife Wonder did his first official album back in 2011, the Wonder Years. He had a song on there called Enjoy. And it featured Murs, who he had worked with 1,000 times. He had several albums with Murs, Warren G, and a young dude named Kendrick Lamar. You know what I'm saying? So Knife had the song Enjoy, and Warren G had a dope verse on it. And I remember talking to Knife one time, and I was like, "Yo, how was Warren G, man?" And he had a really good thing to say. Like Warren G, cool dude. You know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So. Yeah, it was cool that certain West Coast guys still show love to East Coast, especially all of the guys that people I know have worked with right here in North Carolina, man, and Warren G was one of them, man. And again, I've never heard no one say anything bad about Warren G.
Yeah, and I'm scrolling through because I wanted to get an idea of what his production was, like as far as credits from about 95 to I mean, he went all the way to 2000, and you mentioned some of it, like he had the show, the record called Still Can't Fade It. He did a joint on the Bad Boys soundtrack, the first Bad Boys movie called So Many Ways. He produced for Cam. Like you said, he did Twins album. He did a song on the Nutty Professor album featuring Mr. Malik again called We Want Your Hands Up. He was doing a lot of soundtracks. Y'all remember Super Cop? Jackie Chan Super Cop?
Yeah, he did.
Warren G had a record on there featuring Adina Howard called What's Love Got to Do with It, which is crazy. He was getting a lot of work in, and you keep going, like Tupac, Are You Still Down? He did Definition of a Thug Nigga, Lie to Kick It. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got a lie to kick it. Like 2 records I actually like off that joint. He did a Redman joint. He did the Pick It Up remix, Warren G remix. Mac Dre. Let's go into the 2000s real quick.
Man.
He did a song.
Eastsiders, man, the TQ, and yeah, he did a lot of stuff. He kept it on the West Coast a lot, man, which is cool because that's his thing. But
yeah, he did a lot all the way up until, as far as what's documented here, 2013. Now, Tone, what did you think when he released Return of the G-Funk Era, which was like the sequel, and I believe that was maybe 20 years later, I think, or 15. I got to check, but it was after that.
I'm gonna tell you what I think is interesting about that. Now I'm gonna give you the exact years as well. I can't remember what exact year that album came out.
2001.
2001. So we got a couple years later. The biggest thing that stood out for me about that album was that's like your 4th album, and that's the first time Dr. Dre produced a song for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is his 4th album. Dr. Dre does his lead single called what's that single? Looking at You. So Dr. Dre does that song. It takes this is this dude's 4th album, and Dr. Dre finally produced a song on that. That could be by design. It could be I can make my own beats anyway. I don't need Dre to, I'm not gonna wait 6 months for Dre to send me a beat because Dre do everything slow as shit. You know what I'm saying? So he might have been I ain't gotta wait on Dr. Dre to me my own beats, which he did. But I thought it was cool and crazy that Dre finally did a song for me and it ended up in the single. But the album was solid. I mean, it still had its sound to it, and I think people who enjoy Warren G sound wasn't mad at it. I mean, it wasn't a game changer or anything like that, but it was definitely respectable follow up to his debut.
Yeah, and I think when you think about it, and you think about having a debut that goes 4 times platinum, and almost in the eyes of some hip hop fans feeling like you faded away, even though you saw some of the things we say, he really didn't. He kind of has the career of the hip hop producer, not the Kanye version where the rapper sticks out more than the producer side of him, but more like somebody like a Diamond D.
Yes.
Who's been producing for years, but most fans, you kind of think of the past when you think of Diamond D, but he's also put rap albums out in recent years.
Diamond D really can rap. Sorry, not to deviate too much.
No,
he can really, really rap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Warren G was good for what he did. He never tried to put too much into his rhymes, man. It were cool rhymes or with cool beats. And you can't be mad at it. I mean, I don't think he has anything whack. It was just a nice, mellow, cool, smooth career. You know what I'm saying? Sound was smooth and can't be mad at him.
Yeah, and again, y'all can see and hear the remnants of his style, rhyming style and production style in artists like Dom Kennedy, artists like Currency, where it's even in some respects, some of the stuff that Devin the Dude does reminds me of you know, that whole G-Funk era, and Warren G specifically, as far as his sound, that cool, that mellow. You know what else? When I was listening to that album today, it's almost like some of those records almost sound like 80s R&B slow jams. You know what I'm saying? Like they got a feel to them that it's not sappy like a slow jam. You know what I'm saying? You ain't thinking about, I mean, at least I don't think you are. You ain't thinking about love or your devotion to your girl.
Yeah, just like this DJ. This DJ sounds like an 80s kind of slow vibe.
And he used a lot of the samples from that. But like you said, he kind of kept it all on the same wavelength. Same thing with his bars.
Yeah, this DJ, that track, What's Next? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say it's from front of. We used to be in the dorm room drinking, playing video games back in college, and we listened to. I remember one day we listened to Warren G album, and then What's Next? He say, "What's next? What's next? What's NXET?" Anybody go listen to it? And I know he was doing on trying to be funny, but me and my homeboy used to get my roommate used to get a kick out of that, man, because he said, "What's NXET?"
And look, and he the producer. Like, how he ain't catch that?
Right, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. People go listen on YouTube. You'll laugh at it. But yeah, man, you know, just good times, man. Thinking about, you know what I'm saying, that era, man, and someone like Warren G, who, again, like I said, man, I have so much respect for someone who really carved their own name, man. He was never on interview saying Dr. Dre is my brother. You know, I'm from there. I'm from there. You know, he didn't even talk about knowing Snoop like that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't talk about this stuff. Snoop one told the story back in the 90s about, you know, they all sitting around rapping and stuff, and he's like, "Hey man, you know, my stepbrother's Dr. Dre," and Snoop like, "Dude, we've been sitting there rapping all this long time, and your damn brother's Dr. Dre." Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, he was never the one that used none of that. He never talked about it.
Yeah. And I think to what we said about, you know, what happened during the time and whether he got pushed into the background, I don't think it bothered him, honestly. You know, when you look at him releasing music in recent years, like you said, when you watch him talk, he doesn't seem bitter about anything. He always stayed productive, obviously, through his production work. So I think he's just a hip hop head, you know what I'm saying? And he loves making music, whether that's him behind the mic or doing production for someone else. And again, you know, like Tone said, when you think about the G-Funk era, you can't just think Death Row and not say Warren G. He plays a big role in that. Regulate is one of the biggest singles out of that whole Death Row camp as far as everything that was coming from them, you know what I'm saying? And it comes from somebody who, you know, was unassuming considering
another little thing to say about the song Regulators. Up until the time it was released, it stayed on the charts and was the biggest single in Def Jam history up to that point. Now, people understand the context of what I'm saying. At one point, Regulators by West Coast artist Warren G was the largest single in Def Jam history in the mid-90s. Def Jam, LL Cool J, EPMD. You understand what I'm saying? And the list is long and very long. Yeah. But Beastie Boys, all this, I believe. You know what I'm saying? So at some point, yeah, man. I mean, he carved his mark in West Coast history. You can also say that Regulator, since we were really talking more about the debut album, it's definitely top 10 West Coast album in terms of importance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's creeping close. I mean, it's right in that second tier of the most important West Coast hip hop albums. Yeah, it's in the top 10. There's no debating that. But it's closer to that 7, 6, 7 probably.
He's like one of the, you know, those unsung heroes in hip hop that don't really get mentioned, but people take for granted how much he meant to the game and to the West Coast and did it on the East Coast record label at that. You know what I'm saying? at a time
So
where
let's look at this: 4 million
4
sold,
million.
legendary album on the West Coast. How many West Coast albums had a big impact? 4 million records. When we talking about the Chronic, Doggy Style, you know what I'm saying? You know, you're not talking about
Exactly.
many that was more successful than Warren G. How many West Coast albums sold more than 4 million records? The Chronic and Doggy Style. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Nobody else did that. DJ Quick didn't do that. Ice Cube didn't do that. None of them did.
Yeah.
Ice Cube went platinum several times, and of course, his album, his first 2 albums, is larger in the West Coast grand scheme of things probably than Warren G. But he didn't sell more.
Nope. And there's nothing about Warren G's sound that you could point to and say, "Oh, well, that's watered down or that's radio play." It was the same thing we was bumping when we was listening to records like "Let Me Ride." You know what I'm saying? It's the same exact sound. Nothing was compromised. It was just unique, and it appealed to a lot of people, not just West Coast or not just East Coast, but hip hop fans. And you know, I just think I was thinking about it. I was just kind of like, man, people just really don't mention Warren G a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, we recognize the songs, but he needs to just be mentioned more, if not for what you just said, you know what I'm saying, importance and what he did for the game. And for those people, when Tone mentioned earlier about Nate Dogg, like him being introduced to Nate Dogg, well, we did a whole episode on Nate Dogg. So you should go and check it out if you want a little bit more insight into that brother and what he brought to the game, doing what he does. But leave your comments in the comment section below. Warren G, unsung in hip hop. What did you think about his debut album? You know what I'm saying? Is he the G-Funk era? You know what I'm saying? When you think about that era of West Coast hip hop and that sound, leave your comments below. Now, Tone, we like to get into this little segment called What We Recommend. And I'm going to recommend an album that's a bona fide classic, undisputed classic, one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. Black people, white people, and when we think of the content, even white people like it from back then. Public Enemy, 1988. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back. Now, the main reason why I picked this as a recommendation is because one time I was on Kill's podcast, shout out to Apartment 5B podcast, and I remember Kill asking me something about you know, classic albums, and you know, it can't be classic if you haven't listened to it recently. And I remember telling him, well, it takes a nation of millions to hold us back as a classic, and I can't remember the last time I listened to it in all. That's why it's a recommendation, because I think a lot of times, especially on Twitter and social media, we debate all these different albums and blah, 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 but none of us have a reference point that's recent. Like, we haven't listened to it in years. We just remember when it was out and when we heard it, and what we felt at that time. But this show is about preserving hip-hop. And a couple of days ago, I went back and listened to it because I had listened to it in years. And man, when I tell you, Tone, it's like yesterday. It's like that joint came out yesterday, man. From the intro that has a nice build to it, all the way through the end with political stories, conscious rap, you know, talking about shitting on, you know, radio airplay and why radio won't play me in the daytime, because Chuck said that in one of his rhymes. Talking about the crack, you know, situation in 1988, you know, that was big. And just having so many dope classic records like Rebel Without a Pause, Louder Than a Bomb, even the Terminator X joint was crazy with the Flash Gordon mix all up in there. Like, again, a lot of this isn't a recommendation for nobody, for a person who's never heard this album. This is a recommendation for hip hop fans who just hasn't hit play on it in a while. And I think it's definitely worthy of anybody going back and listening just to understand why, when they pop up and say which album gotta go, we never say It Takes a Nation of Millions gotta go, or we never say, you know, this is not their greatest album of all time, or whatever the case may be. But Tone, It Takes a Nation of Millions to hold us back, 1988. I know you heard it a million times. Your thoughts on that album, and what's your recommendation for this time?
And look, Takes a Nation is possibly the most important album in the history of the culture of hip hop. I mean, it's that important. I mean, you talking about it tackled everything. It tackled American history. It was like a James Baldwin book. It was like a Malcolm X speech. It was like that for the hip hop community, man. And the crazy thing was it crossed over. Chuck D, they found a way to tour the world. They had Switzerland somewhere with a crowd with 20 black people in it spitting the rhymes they spit when they're back home in New York. You know what I'm saying? Or wherever, you know what I'm saying? So that alone shows the power of music. Black still in the hour of chaos. You know what I'm saying? You know, now what's the other track, man? I mean, Night Living Bassheads, man.
Yeah.
You know, we talking about
classic video too.
Absolutely. So yeah, man, you know, the Source magazine did the greatest albums of all time years and years and years ago. You know, probably 20 years ago almost. And then Public Enemy Takes a Nation was the #1 album. It's also the highest ranked rap album on Rolling Stone's 500 greatest albums, period. I mean, take it over the great salt, but it's still the highest ranked rap album. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, by Rolling Stones is generally ranked the highest rap album on every list. If you look at it, Wikipedia, every professional rating is a 5-star. It's one of the few albums you'll see down there, the metric thing or whatever. It's 5 stars all the way down.
Yeah.
For everybody. So that's what it is, man. It's an amazing album. It sounds great. The Bomb Squad was great. I listened to it actually about a month ago. Still sound fresh in the car. I like the way it come on, it's live. You know, you're talking about what's up, London, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just that live joint. It's a listening to Takes a Nation is like listening on the Cuban Links for me. It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's not just you listen to and not because I like some songs. You know what I'm saying? Bring you into their world throughout the album, same way a movie would, same way Cuban Links did for me. So yeah, man, classic joint, man. Everybody go listen to that again, man. My pick this week for this month's episode is Camp Lo's 6th project. It's their 4th album, but it had 2 EPs as well, called Heist. Another Heist. And listen, Camp Lo is one of the smoothest rap duos you will ever hear. If you're listening right now and you've never been up on Camp Lo, start back with the first one, Uptown Saturday Night, and listen to all of their albums. Trust me when I tell you, this black exploitation, the 7-inch slang, both of them got the smooth voices. I think was it Sonny Chiba probably got the smoothest voice in hip hop, maybe. You know, I saw a podcast, well, not a podcast, but IG Live with Method Man and Fat Joe the other day, and they were talking about Camp Lo. It just brought warmth to my heart because you know, Method Man was like, man, them dudes really dope, man, like really dope. And Fat Joe was like, man, they should have been much larger, man. Them dudes can rap. And it was just so dope hearing that, you know what I'm saying? And on Another Heist, man, they didn't miss a beat. Speaking of beats, Ski Beats from Greensboro, North Carolina, down here in North Carolina where I'm from, who produced Lucchini and their whole first album. He produced almost all of their work. And he produced this album as well, Another Heist. Banger after banger, got a track on there called Black Connect again. Like the first album had Black Connection, Uptown, song Get 'Em Low, the title track Heist. Man, just, dude, let me tell you, dope beats, smooth flow, dope rhymes. You're a hip hop head. You'll love this album. You'll also love all of the work by Camp Lo. They did a joint with an album with Pete Rock, all kind of stuff, man. These guys are no joke, man. Check Camp Lo out, man. And also, they cool dudes, man. I used to work out with one of them in the gym when I lived in Durham. He stayed in Raleigh a lot, you know what I'm saying? And we used to work out in the gym, man. With Geechee Sway. Cool dude, funny, very humble. And, you know, real talk, man, when you meet someone, and I'm not some kind of guy to care about meeting people, but when you meet someone and they turn out to be real cool, it does make you appreciate their music or their art even more. And I'm going to tell you, those brothers are some smooth, cool dudes, man. So big up to Camp Lo, man. Check out Another Heist. check out all of their stuff, man. What do you think of? Have you heard Another Heist, man? Or you up on Camp Lo?
Another Heist? Nah, man, I never heard it. I see it came out in 2009. So it's something I'm definitely gonna go and listen to because
the videos for it on YouTube.
Yeah, because I think what really brought me back to, because obviously I was on the first album like big time in 2000. I'm not 1996. But I think the next time I like actually paid attention is when they started doing the 80 Blocks to Tiffany's mixtape series with Pete Rock, and it kind of brought me back into what they do because their flows, it doesn't really age. It kind of fits with today's sound also. So I don't think in 2009 I was up on that album, probably caught wind of it, never got the chance to listen to it, forgot about it. So I'm definitely going to check it out. But what y'all need to do, right, is take those two recommendations. It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy, Another Heist by Camp Lo. Go check them out. That's supporting hip hop. Listen to them, because if you watch this whole show, you are a hip hop fan. It doesn't matter if you like some hip hop and some you don't. We ain't steering you wrong. This is quality music that we're talking about from top to bottom. Maybe we wasn't that great on Down with the King, but it's Run DMC, so we had to mention them as well. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell us what you think about anything we talked about here on the podcast. Please know that this podcast is available at intothedome.com, where you can watch the video and you can listen to the podcast itself through SoundCloud. Now, if you don't really use SoundCloud or you don't like using a third-party app, it doesn't matter. Whatever podcasting app you use, all you got to do is search for Hip Hop Now Podcast, and within that same stream will be the audio version to That Time in Hip Hop. Hit subscribe and stay locked in. On behalf of Tone of IntoTheDome.com with a brand new article that you need to go check out, and Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast, go out and support real hip hop. Peace.
Drop it on the random.